Hello, my name is Miss Wilson, and today we are going to look at how to write a check and also some information about debit cards and credit cards being used among young students. In today's times, it's very easy for students to apply for and obtain credit cards and debit cards. It could help them build their credit and teach them healthy habits at a young age with parent help, but it could also create downfalls such as impulse buying and identity theft at a young age. When is it the best time for students to get credit cards and debit cards? Most likely it is when they start driving and after high school. When driving, students could use the card for an emergency or for gas. Also when they move out of town for college, for things they may need. Now that we have talked about debit cards and credit cards, I'm going to show you how to fill out a check step by step. This is still an important thing to know even with the upgrades of electronic bill paying. First, start by writing in the date and the payee. Nothing too complicated here. Just write in the current date in the upper right-hand corner, and on the line that says pay to the order of, you'll write the payee's name. You may have to ask, who do I make the check out to if you are not sure. Next, write in the amount of your payment in numeric form. Write the amount of your payment in the small box. You should start as far over to the left as possible. If your payment is for $8.15, the 8 should be right up against the left-hand border of the box. This prevents anybody from slipping in an extra number or two. Here's an example of what can happen if you're not careful when writing a check. As I have said in the last step, you should write your payment amount as far to the left as possible. This picture shows how somebody can add a number before the amount you wrote in. The fourth step is writing out the amount of your payment using words instead of numerals. This helps avoid any confusion. You will notice that the cents portion is written using a fraction, and after it, you should always draw a line all the way to the word dollars. This makes it harder for anyone else to write something in that space. At this point, it is time for you to sign your check, and you can write a memo if you like. Sign your check legibly and use the same signature that is on file at the bank. If you like, you can write a memo. This might help you remember why you made this payment. This picture shows how a creative person can turn your decimal point into a comma and add an extra zero to your payment amount. Drawing a line through any excess space helps prevent this, as is writing out the amount in letters. Another trick is to use all capital letters. Capital letters are harder to alter. You will always want to keep track of the checks you have written in what is called the check register. First, your check number should be written down. It can be located at the bottom of the check or in the upper right-hand corner. Next, record the date that you wrote on the check in case there is ever a question as to when you wrote it. Third, a description of the transaction or who you wrote the check to is important to be written down so that you can remember who the money went to. In the column labeled Payment Debit, you will want to write how much the payment was for. Finally, your check register can provide an instant view of how much money you have available. Once you write a check, you should assume that the money is gone. In the example, we assume that you started out with $100. Now that you have written a check for $8.15, you only have $91.85 available. In the column labeled Deposit Credit, this is where you would write anytime you put money into the bank or money is deposited electronically. The checkmark column is for your use to make sure that the payment has been cashed or the company has received your check. This can be done by checking your online statement or by going to the bank and getting a printout of your account statement. Here are some tips for good check writing. Write checks only on forms provided by your bank. You should always write checks in ink. This helps prevent theft and people changing what you have written. You should also only write checks if you have the money in your account to cover them. You should always use the current date when writing a check. Never post date. Also, void checks on which you make errors. Do not try to erase or retrace your writing.